basically want to add deadband. And what deadband does is it gives you a little bit of buffer, essentially, before the input is actually recognized. So what we want to do right here, RC deadband, we want to bump that up to however much you need. Do you ever have a situation as you're flying, you notice that even when you don't touch your transmitter sticks, the quadcopter just kind of drifts one way or the other, or maybe it just kind of very slowly rolls, or maybe it pitches forward, or maybe it's kind of a combination, and you're like, what is going on? And I want to specifically mention that this is talking about air mode. So if you're in air mode, and also not talking about drift from wind. Specifically mean rotationally drifting movements, not necessarily that the quadcopter is moving laterally, like in a different direction like it would with the wind. I'm talking specifically like it's behaving like you're putting a stick input in, but you are actually not. And how do I fix that? Well, today we're going to talk about an easy way to fix that. Hey everybody, welcome back to RC with Adam. My name is Adam. By the way, this is the Eachine Cinecan. And I finally got this thing like set up and flying, and I still need to do some stuff, some little tuning and tweaking and things like that. So expect some more videos about the Cinecan soon. The transmitter that I'm using is the FlySky i6x. And what I noticed is that when I was flying this around, we got that drifting issue. So probably the quickest way, but I don't recommend this way that you can fix drift, is just by trimming it out on your radio. So you could use these trim buttons here to just basically compensate for the quadcopter drift. Or if you want to get fancy, you could go into the menu here, and then you could go into the sub trim, and then change it with the sub trim. And so that way your trims will stay the same, but your sub trim. But here's the thing, I don't really like that, because then you're dependent on your radio to remember that profile. So I'm going to show you how to do it on BetaFlight, and it's super simple. I wish I had known this before. So the reason for the drift, at least in my case, is basically the gimbal here, the transmitter gimbal, which is this stick thingy. It's called a gimbal. It's just it doesn't quite center is essentially the problem, and that's partially because these are cheap gimbals. This is, FlySky cheap gimbals. I get it, but the other thing is that this one's kind of dirty. I should probably clean it and kind of grease it or whatever you do to make them a little bit smoother. And so basically, it's not quite returning to center. And I'm going to show you what that's doing right now. So let's connect our quadcopter here to the computer, and we will get into BetaFlight. And in this case, this receiver actually does get powered by the USB. If your quadcopter doesn't, you want to make sure you have your quadcopter powered, but take your props off. Okay, so we're in BetaFlight. We're going to click connect. Here we are. Now, if we go down to the receiver tab right here, you can see that we have our quad preview right here. Now, let me change this back to how it was, because a little sneak peek, I kind of gave that away, I guess. But in any case, so we can see here that our quadcopter is barely moving. Like it's really hard to tell, but it is moving a tiny little bit. You can see that gap right there. You can see it's moving. In any case, it's moving. Yours might be moving more. And the reason why is because if we look here at our pitch bar right here, see how it says 1501? Well, it should be 15. 15 is the midpoint, so that should be the center of the stick. Now, right now it's not quite centered, but if I tap it a little bit, it will go back to center sometimes, and then sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so what we want to do is basically we want to add deadband, and what deadband does is it gives you a little bit of buffer, essentially, before the input is actually recognized. So what we want to do right here, RC deadband, we want to bump that up to however much you need. In this case, but I mean, you don't want any more than you need, just as much as you need. So in this case, we're really getting only 1501. I think I had it maybe in some cases up to 2, but really it's just like 1. And actually 2 is the lowest number. So if you set this to the RC deadband to 2, and you can actually see this little box here, it tells you what that does, which is nice. You can also do yaw deadband, and the reason why you'd want to do yaw deadband would be because, well, I guess, because if you are using your throttle stick and you want to avoid putting any yaw inputs, which can be kind of difficult sometimes, so that might be why you'd want to do yaw deadband specifically. In any case, our RC deadband is 2, so what that really means is this thing could go up to 1502, actually on any of these controls, and it would not make any movements to the quadcopter. Now that's kind of a downside because like that gives you essentially less control. You're giving up like, I guess, 2 microseconds. But it's necessary, and I don't really care. So then what you want to do, you want to come down here and click Save. That is the most important part. Click Save, and then you should be good to go. Your quad should not be moving. What you could do is just leave it there for a little bit and see if it moves on its own. Well, there you go, folks. That is how you can fix a simple quadcopter drift issue. And you might, your issue might be different than this one, so but give this a try and it might work for you. And I know this can be the case sometimes with like a new quadcopter build or well, in this case, it is just the transmitter. So it could just be a transmitter thing. To be honest, I am not totally sure the extent of the possible ways of getting a drift problem in your quadcopter, but you might try this one if you have it because it might fix it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing and being awesome. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your time, and I will see you again very soon.